round about. And thou shalt set bounds. And thou shalt set bounds. Because people say y'all bound, but the word said bind. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. Y'all ain't hearing. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Now what they calling bound, we ain't bound. But what the word said don't touch, we can't touch. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves, that ye not go up into the mount. Now, let me pause right there. Remember, I've made references to it during the course of some of my sermons. I've told us, maybe I should say messages, because anybody can sermonize, but it takes God to give you a message. Hallelujah. But remember, I told us about the time where God told Moses, don't let your cattle graze around the mountain. Don't let, if they touch the mountain, I'm going to kill them. We reading it right now. He says that ye go not up into the mount or touch the border. Touch the border. That's the landmark. Touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount shall be surely put to death. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall be stoned or shot through. Whether, God, this is some serious business. Whether it be beast, that's the cattle, that's their animals. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. Here it is. He said, I roped off the mountain. I put a boundary. That's what a landmark is a boundary. I'm telling you to go so far. But when you go as far as I allow you to go, you better not go any further. And if you go any further, you're going to die. That's what's happening in the church today. A lot of these preachers are going too far, trying to change things. God said, leave alone. If you go too far, death is waiting if you step over the boundary. See, I don't care how much we want to say whatever. This is a changing world, and it is. There are some things you better leave alone. I'll get into it later. But some things you just can't change. See, when you start talking about changing the method of baptism, you're moving a landmark. When you start talking about you ain't got to live holy, you're moving a landmark. And the Bible said, cursed be the man that move his neighbor's landmark. And the only reason they moved their neighbor's landmark was to take ownership of what was not theirs. Let me tell you something today, saints. Don't be so green-eyed until you step over anybody, kick down anybody, trying to take something that belonged to somebody else. Just be satisfied with what God has blessed you with and multiply that within the boundary. Say, don't you come too far. Because I'll knock you backwards. I'm talking about God. He said, I'll kill you. I'll wipe you out. Now, let me just say this. Hallelujah. I'm not going to preach tonight. I'm going to let somebody else preach, so I got to get it off my chest today. Hallelujah. When landmarks are removed, it causes problems and disputes. When you move the landmark. How do you know? Job chapter 24 verse 2 tells us. He says, some remove the landmarks. They violently take away flocks and feed their own. Oh, Lord, should I talk about this, Lord? Yes, I should. He said, some move landmarks. Oh, if this ain't reading what's going on in the 21st century, I don't know what is. They move the landmarks to violently take away flocks. Now, what are flocks? Flocks in the Bible's definition refers to churches. It refers to churches. There are those that will remove the landmark to fill up their church with other folks' churches. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. Didn't he say they moved landmarks, then they violently take away flocks? In other words, they come in trying to take over. And then what do? They feed their own. That's why all they got is bragging rights about how many folk come to their church. They only can brag about how much money come through the church. They only brag about, well, we got this program and that program and the other program. But look at what you did to get them in there. You moved the landmark. Let me tell you something today. When you remove landmarks, you'll swell but won't grow. See, swelling is just like growing. It appears, but that's a sign there's an infection in there. There's nobody that ever has been swollen that something wasn't wrong with you. If you swell up, something wrong with you, honey. You better get your blood tested. You something wrong. Yeah, you're big, but something wrong with you. Yeah, you got to change size, your dress size or your pants size, but something wrong with you. Honey, let me tell you something. When you grow, you'll be healthy. But when you swell, you'll get big fast. But it only takes one pop to bring you down. What did Joshua tell us? I'm still talking about you can't move the landmark. Joshua tells us in chapter 22, verse 25. He says, for the Lord hath made Jordan a border. That landmark is again. He made a boundary between us and you. Ye children of Reuben and the children of Gad. Ye have no part in the Lord. So shall your children make our children cease from fearing the Lord. Let me explain what's happening here. What happened in this text. Here it is. Reuben and Gad, those tribes, start fighting with each other. They couldn't get along with each other. So what the Lord did, he said, I tell you what, Gad, you get on one side. Reuben, you get on the other side. The river Jordan will be the boundary. You don't step across the river and go into anybody else's territory because you're fighting too much. You can't get, and they were brothers, Reuben and Gad. But he said, there's too much between you, so I'm going to set a boundary that divides the two of you so we won't have this problem. But there was already a problem arising. The last part of the verse tells us what happened. Their children, Lord help me, the children were so corrupted until they were going to teach others how not to fear the Lord. That's the problem right there, saints. The problem is the reason we have so much trouble out. And when I'm talking about children, I'm not talking about our teenagers that's present in the church right now. I'm talking in terms of the generation before us. See, the generation that preceded our generation, they listened to their pastors. They listened to their leaders. If the pastor said don't do it, they didn't do it. If the pastor said do it, they did it. But this generation now has learned from some of these that had preceded us. Let me tell you something. The reason a lot of children know a lot of the mess they do is because they hear you talking in the bedroom while they're over there in their room. And when they hear that trash come out of your mouth, that's the reason it spreads over here, it spreads over there, it spreads over here, and now you hot with each other because they've added their twist to the story and got a mess going. Let me tell you something. You can't blame that child. You can blame yourself because you were the one talking about things you should have kept